Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. This Saturday is UFC Vegas 72, and in the main event, we have a bantamweight matchup, Song Yadong versus Ricky Simone, and this is going to be my full breakdown and prediction. And this originally wasn't supposed to be the main event of UFC Vegas 72. The original main event was Arman Tsarukyan versus Renato Moicano. Moicano pulled out with an injury, I think, about a week and a half ago. The UFC was scrambling to find a main event replacement. And so what they did was, this was the co-main event on the same card as Curtis Blades versus Sergey Pavlovich, last week's main event. And this was supposed to be the co-main event. They said, okay, this is a very good bantamweight matchup. We are going to move it a week in the future at UFC Vegas 72, and it will be the new main event. And this is a solid fight, but massive X factor right off the jump. You have it go from a 3-round to a 5-round fight. You know, it was the co-main event last week at 3 rounds. Now it is the main event. It will be a 5-round fight. That is a massive factor. But this is a quality matchup in the bantamweight division. I believe the bantamweight division is the best division in all the UFC. It's the most highly skilled division. It's the most stacked division. And this is essentially a bantamweight version of last year's Arman Tsarukyan versus Mateusz Gamrot fight. I don't mean that necessarily from styles or anything like that, but what I mean is it's two very good guys who are ranked in the top 15, who look like they may belong with the elite of the elite, and they're fighting each other in the main event. This is exactly what an amazing, contender matchup is. It's not a number one contender fight, but this fight will propel them into maybe, a top 5 opponent in their next fight, something along those lines. This is a massive fight, and honestly, if the division wasn't so stacked, the win here would get them close to a title shot. Because the division is so stacked, the winner here is probably 2 fights away from a potential title shot, depending on how the division plays out. There's so much going on at bantamweight with Aljamain Sterling versus Henry Cejudo. You got Sean O'Malley waiting in the wings, and you got Merab not willing to fight Aljamain Sterling, and it goes on and on and on and on. But whoever wins this fight is going to be in a very good spot within the bantamweight division, and I'm really looking forward to this matchup. I think both guys are highly skilled, and this should be an amazing fight. So if you look at the tail of the tape for this fight, you have Song Yadong, who is 19-7-1. Ricky Simone is 20-3. Yadong ranked number 8 in the UFC official ranking. Simone number 10. Yadong is 25 years old. Simone is 30. Yadong is 5'8". Simone is 5'6". Yadong has a 67-inch reach, and Simone has a 70-inch reach. So a 2-inch height advantage for Yadong and a 3-inch reach advantage for Simone. So if you look at Ricky Simone, of his 20 wins, 6 by knockout, 4 by submission, 10 by decision. Of his 3 losses, he's lost once by knockout, once by submission, and once by decision. He is currently on a 5-fight win streak. His last fight was in July of last year against up-and-coming prospect Jack Shore. And I actually picked Jack Shore to win this fight. And he went out there, and I don't want to say he was dominant. He got the finish in the second round. We'll talk about the finish here in a second. But he out-grappled him in the first round. And Jack Shore's a very well-rounded opponent who went up to featherweight since and has a win at featherweight. And a lot of people were looking at Jack Shore as a future contender in the bantamweight division. And he went out there, out-clinch worked him, took him down, beat him up a little bit, landed on the feet. And then in the second round, he clips him with, I believe it was a big right hand, hurts him badly. Jack Shore goes down. He immediately gets full mount. Then I think Jack Shore kind of rolled to his back. Simone's flattening him out with his back. Then he rolls back. Simone locks up an arm triangle and submits Jack Shore. Quality win. And to get a stoppage like that was super impressive. The fight before that, he fought kind of a down-the-hill Rafael Sunsao on the career decline. KO'd him in the second round, was winning up until that point, just looked faster, more aggressive, landing better. Lands a massive right hand, hurts a Sunsao, kind of sits him down, and then lands like a follow-up ground-and-pound uppercut that just absolutely sleeps Rafael Sunsao. Before that, he out-grappled Brian Kelleher, beat him up, cut him up. And then you go back to his last loss. He has 2 more fights before that, 2 more wins before that I'm not going to get into. But you go back to his last loss, was all the way back in December of 2019. So going on 4 years since Ricky Simone last lost, and it was against Rob Font. And this was a very competitive fight. I think it was a 29-28 win for Rob Font. Rob Font was able to stuff some of the takedowns. He got taken down quite a bit, but able to get back to his feet. Was landing with the jab, landing with combinations, and won the fight. And then his last loss before that, he was actually on a 2-fight losing skid. He was beating Uriah Faber and Uriah Faber caught him. It was a bit of an early finish, but he finished a legend, or he got finished by a legend like Uriah Faber, kind of on the decline. Nobody expected Ricky Simone to lose that fight, and he went out there and lost, but he really just got caught, and then it was a bit of an early stoppage. So those are his 2 losses, and then you go through the rest of his career. He has a big win over Merab Dvalishvili, but this win is kind of clouded, and this is back in 2018. He was losing the fight. He, had a submission in the 3rd round, a guillotine, I believe it was, and a mounted guillotine, and Merab's just slamming his feet around. The fight ends, the round ends, and Merab gets up, and then the doctor lays him back down, and then the referee waves off the fight. Some people say Merab was out. It looked like he was fighting through it the whole time. I know there was a minute as soon as he let go of the guillotine where he looked kind of out, but I think it should have been a Merab win. So I don't really count that win. And then the rest of the competition isn't that great. We've gone over all the notable competition that he's fought. But he's looking pretty good as of recently, with the 5-fight win streak. Moving over to Song Yadong, he has 19 wins. Of those 19 wins, 8 by knockout, 3 by submission, 8 by decision. Of his 7 losses, he's lost twice by knockout, 0 by submission, 4 by decision, and 1 by disqualification. His last fight was in September last year against Corey Sandhagen. Very competitive fight. He got cut badly, I believe, in the 2nd round with a step-in elbow, and then eventually the doctor stopped it. I think Corey Sandhagen was on his path to a victory anyway. He was outstriking him. He was mixing in the clinch work, mixing in the takedowns. He actually had a lot of success. Even though he wasn't taking him down and controlling him, he had a lot of success, just threatening the clinch, threatening the takedowns, and it was making Yadong very tentative on his feet. The fight before that, he went out there and KO'd Marlon Moraes. And it was an okay win at the time, but Marlon Moraes, he's a dead corpse at this point, and he was on the road to that at that point. I actually picked Marlon Moraes in that fight, which is why I'm saying, I'm playing a bit of a revisionist history here. But, that win has aged poorly for everyone. Basically everyone's KOing Marlon Moraes at this point. And, that was only in March of last year. That's crazy to me. And Marlon Moraes has just been KO'd so many times he needs to retire. He did retire in the UFC, but then he came back and fought in PFL, and now he's been finished twice in PFL. The fight before that was against Julio Arce. He TKO'd him, caught him with a head kick, finished him in the 2nd round. Was winning the fight, outstriking him, looked very fast, very technical. The fight before that was a split decision win over Casey Kenny. It was back at UFC 265 in August of 2021. Decent win there. Casey Kenny, not the elite of the elite. And then his last loss was back at UFC 259 to Kyler Phillips. Kyler Phillips looked like a very promising prospect. Got recently caught cheating with steroids in his system. So who knows? Maybe he was using steroids at that point in time. It's hard to really say. But I'll tell you one thing. Song Yadong's been super active. 2 fights or 3 fights in 2021. 2 fights in 2022. And now he has a fight booked in the, early stages of 2023. Song Yadong's super active. The other losses are all outside the UFC. He's lost to Kyler Phillips and Corey Sandhagen in the UFC. And those are his only 2 losses in the UFC. And they're not horrible losses to have, especially the Corey Sandhagen fight, where he looked incredible in that fight, even though he was losing the fight. And he's still so young. He's 25 years old. And that's what makes this fight so interesting, because I feel like the younger a fighter is, the more they improve fight to fight. And Song Yadong has looked like he's improved fight after fight. And also, one thing I did want to mention about Song Yadong that I forgot, he has a win over Marlon Vera back in May of 2020. This was a bit of a controversial win. You could say Marlon Vera should have won this fight, but it is what it is. It was kind of a close fight. It was a bit of a robbery, but it's not the end of the world. But still, even though it could have went to Marlon Vera, it was still close enough fight that you could give it to Song Yadong, I guess. And look where Marlon Vera is now. That's the point of the whole thing. Marlon Vera, a very good fighter. I know he didn't look particularly good against Corey Sandhagen. If you look at Marlon Vera versus Corey Sandhagen and Song Yadong versus Corey Sandhagen, a very good fighter. Corey Sandhagen right up there in title discussions. Song Yadong looked much better than Marlon Vera. Anyway, back to the fight and back to the prediction. When I look at this fight, I see Ricky Simone more as a grappler, and he wants to get the clinch. He wants to take you down. He wants to be super aggressive. He wants to push forward. And then Song Yadong kind of wants to, just box with you. He wants to just use his hands. He mixes in the kicks. He has good kicks, but he mainly just wants to box with you. He wants to land power shots, and he wants to look for a finish, and he wants to move forward as well. So I think this fight, no matter how it goes, I think it will be a very exciting fight. But what it really comes down to is, can Ricky Simone be effective with his grappling? Can he get takedowns? Can he push him up against the fence and control him up against the fence for extended period of time? And, can Song Yadong defend the takedown? Song Yadong showed in the Corey Sandhagen fight. Corey Sandhagen was shooting for takedowns in the fight. I think he only got taken down like once, and he really wasn't controlled. But we haven't ever really seen Song Yadong just consistently taken down and controlled. I think even in the Cody Stamann fight, which was back in 2019, it was actually a fight card I was there for live. Cody Stamann was trying to take him down. He was defending him well, getting back up when he got taken down. Looked really solid in that fight. So this is a very tough fight to pick. And honestly, when I looked at this fight originally, before I watched fight tape, I had an early prediction, and then I went back and watched fight tape recently, and I changed my prediction, even though this fight is very hard. I think it really could go either way. But I think what this comes down to is, can Ricky Simone get it to the ground? Because if Ricky Simone can get it to the ground, I believe he could finish it with ground and pound. I think he could finish it with a submission. I think also he could win a decision that way. For Song Yadong, if he can keep it standing, he can TKO or KO Ricky Simone. He can win a decision that way. And also you have to factor in the fact that now it's 5 rounds over 3 rounds. But for my official prediction, I am going Ricky Simone via decision. I'm going to say it's like a 48-47 decision, or 49-47 decision, or 49-48 decision. I think it's going to be a very close fight. I think what you're going to see here is constant pressure from Ricky Simone, clinching up with Song Yadong, pushing him against the fence, taking him down. I think Song Yadong is going to be able to get back up, and I think Simone's relentless pressure and pace, and the fact that this is 5 rounds now, I think he's going to pay off. I think Simone will be aggressive earlier with his grappling, pushing him against the fence, looking for takedowns, looking for cage control, and just banking control time, landing a little bit of ground and pound here and there, looking to set up some submissions, but not really getting close. And I think early it'll be very competitive where, okay, maybe Song Yadong lands a couple shots on the feet, but then he gets taken down and the rounds are going to be debatable. But then I think as the fight goes on, Song Yadong's going to get a little bit more tired, and he's going to be able to be controlled up against the fence a little bit more, and Simone's going to get takedowns with a little bit more ease, and then eventually he's going to control him for a minute or two on the ground before Yadong gets up. And I just think the grappling and the relentless pressure of Ricky Simone is what will win him this fight. If I had to pick a finish for Simone, I think it would be like an arm triangle submission finish on the ground, maybe like a 3rd or 4th round, late 3rd round, early 4th round finish. But I think Song Yadong is so athletic. He's still so young. He's ever improving. And he may come out and shock us, honestly. He may come out and just look like an absolute world beater. He does have good takedown defense. But my thing is, Corey Sandhagen came in with a game plan to mix in the takedowns and mix in the clinch control. And it had an effect on Song Yadong's willingness to strike. And I think against Ricky Simone, I think he's going to be too tentative to strike. He's not going to open up on the feet because he's worried about the grappling. Song Yadong is undoubtedly the better striker. But because of the threat of the grappling, we talk about this all the time with striker versus grappler matchups. Because of the threat of the grappling, they're not willing to let their hands go because they're worried about the takedown. And Ricky Simone has very good striking as well, and he is relentless. And I believe one of the major tells in this fight, both guys fight well moving forward. They do not fight well when they're being pushed backwards. Neither one of these guys. Ricky Simone's takedowns are far less, successful when he's being pushed backwards. Song Yadong's striking is really only super effective when he's moving forward. So I think one massive tell in this fight will be who is pressuring who. I think that will tell early who's going to win this fight. But I think Ricky Simone, a little bit older, a little bit more of a veteran, a little bit more skilled in the grappling. And I think cage control, takedowns, clinch work, a little bit of damage from that. And then also I think Ricky Simone will be landing on the feet because of the threat of the takedown. And also, Ricky Simone has great leg kicks, and Song Yadong's kind of heavy on that lead leg. I see Ricky Simone chopping the legs, firing massive overhands, and then entry into a takedown. He has very good entries. We talk about guys like Curtis Blades, who has good wrestling once he gets you down and can control you, but he doesn't have great entries. Ricky Simone will throw combinations to then enter in on the takedown, doesn't telegraph it. He's super aggressive, super relentless, and he will just push forward, push you against the fence, and look for a takedown. I believe it was in his last fight. I can't remember for sure for Ricky Simone. I think it was in his last fight against Jack Shore. He picked him up and slammed him to the ground. It was a super aggressive takedown. He is relentless, double legs, single legs. He will push you against the fence, look to trip you to the ground, and look to control you on the ground. And even if you work back to your feet, he doesn't get deterred. He will continue to just look for that. And I just think in this fight, the threat of the takedown is going to be the key for Ricky Simone. If Song Yadong wins, I think it's going to have to be a KO or TKO. He's got super explosive power in his hands. But I just think, 5 rounds, he was training for a 3-round fight. And to be defending takedowns constantly, I think as the fight goes on, I think Ricky Simone's going to pull away. Maybe Song Yadong gets the first round. Maybe he gets the second round, but it's very close. But I think those later rounds, Ricky Simone, with his grappling and cage control, will take over the fight. And I think he ultimately wins a either 3-2 or 4-1 decision and primarily relies on his grappling. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And thank you so much for watching.